Hello and welcome to She's the Boss. It's said that good marketing makes a company look smart, whereas great marketing makes a customer feel smart. We have someone with us who has mastered both the customer and the company, brand marketing and strategy leader, Vandana Chamaria, who's also the GM marketing of Hero Motor Corp. Vandana, thanks so much for joining us here today.
Thank you.
Now, you've made a very interesting point about the fact that women don't tend to take their careers as seriously. Where has this rationale come from?
Well, I think after spending about a decade and a half in the industry, a lot of it comes from what I observe of women. I have seen women giving up what they deserve. I have seen them underestimating themselves on what they're capable of achieving. I have seen them give up assignments that are challenging just because they think, I'm not sure what it will entail and should I really take it up.
Okay.
So I think it really comes from the fact that women are conditioned in some ways to claim less credit for what they have done or what they deserve.
Yeah.
They don't tend to ask as much of what they want.
Okay.
They expect people to understand.
Okay.
And I think they believe a lot in just doing the doing and waiting for good things to happen.
Okay.
Which is fairly idealistic and doesn't really work out like that because unfortunately careers aren't like self-driving cars and therefore it's better to take the wheel.
Absolutely. I think a lot of the world's top business leaders would also agree with you. They would concur with this notion of not managing careers well. Even in Lean-In, I remember Sheryl Sandberg had mentioned the lack of ownership and leadership that women tend to possess. They'll be the first people to apologize in a corporation. They'll be the last to raise their hands during a meeting. How can we tell women then to manage this almost confidence crisis when it comes to their careers?
I think it all starts with having a plan. I think I haven't seen too many women have a plan of what they want out of their careers and then intentionally going after making things happen to get there.
Okay.
So I think it really starts from having a plan. What is your expectation? As much as you have expectations out of your life, your family, your children, what's your expectation out of your career? Where do you really want to get to? Second is making that plan known. Enough people should know that you're ambitious and where are you going.
Yes.
And then of course being very intentional in doing things to really make it happen. I think some of the things that we can do a lot better is really about firstly being known. Again, like I said earlier, right, we don't take enough credit for what we do.
Right.
I think being known for what you do without necessarily being unmodest about it.
Okay.
And I'm not saying modesty is bad, but at the same time, not claiming due credit is not good either.
True.
So that's one. Secondly, I think being an effective networker, because just doing the doing and waiting for good things to happen does not really work very well. One needs to be out there and network with the right people because I think again in career growth, sponsorship and mentoring has a huge role to play. Finding the right mentors, the right sponsors who can then forward your cause is an important one. And most importantly, women have to be more bold. They have to be more bold in expressing what they want, asking for what they want, and at the same time also putting up their hands to do things which might be off the beaten path, which might be a bit more challenging, and stand up to that.
Okay. Again, very interesting point because there's so many centuries of social conditioning that women are also fighting. Take for example just the way they deal with failure or setbacks or mistakes. There's almost a fear of it. Again, how can women learn how to own their failure instead of being intimidated by it? How can they realize that it's just a part and parcel of not just corporate life but also of personal life? And I'm sure you've also faced some kind of setbacks in your own life.
I think, yes, like you rightly said, failures are a part and parcel of life and not only work life. And I think, again, a lot of people, and this probably more women than men, but I wouldn't distinguish men and women in this one, is they tend to externalize the problem, tend to maybe get bogged down by it, get intimidated by it. And I think what really would make a difference is not the failure itself, but what do you make out of it? To my mind, every failure is an opportunity for one to really demonstrate what I would call leadership qualities, which are really essential. Qualities like being resilient, like being committed, really taking what you have as a task at hand to conclusion,
Right.
Standing up in the face of adversity, I think, is one of the biggest leadership challenges. And I think that's what a failure really sort of demonstrates for you. I mean, I can think of one of the anecdotes back from my career.
Okay.
Where at a point in time, there was a project where we'd taken some decisions along the way, and manufactured a particular product for launch. And I still distinctly remember it was the 10th of January. The stocks are ready at the factory to be released, and we get the news that the product has failed quality tests at the lab.
Ouch. That must have been tough.
It was really tough. It was really tough also because personally, from a career standpoint, that was literally my last project on that assignment, post which I was actually looking forward to moving to a bigger assignment with a promotion. And when you heard this, there were multiple things going on in your head on what happens from a financial perspective to the business, what happens to the project itself, and then what it does to you as an individual in terms of where you're headed in your career.
Right.
It was a tough moment. But now when I look back, I think what I did at that point in time is really what has stood me in very good stead over a period of time. My first instinct then was to really go back and say, okay, being a project leader, I'm fully accountable for what has happened, and I take accountability for that, and the fact that I then therefore would want to take the project to conclusion, which might mean a setback of about 6 months from where I was at that point in time, and wasn't really clear what would happen to the impending promotion. But I believe as a leader at that point in time, that was the right thing to do. To say that you pick it up, take it to conclusion, and then we'll see what next.
Yeah, you're taking ownership of your failure, which is a positive step.
And I think that's what stood me in very good stead. And the next 6 months played out exactly as they were planned before 10th of January. So yeah, I think it's really an opportunity for you to stand up and take ownership.
Definitely.
And display a lot of resilience.
Absolutely. I love this conversation because it almost goes against the stereotype or notion that we have that women have it easier than men in marketing. Do you think it's true? Especially in context of what we've been speaking about.
Well, I have heard a lot about this, read a lot about this. There is enough that's been said on the fact that women are genetically designed to be better at marketing because they're more emotional, they are more empathetic, and so on and so forth. However, I kind of completely disagree. I think marketing or otherwise, making a career is really about what you bring to the table. It isn't really about gender, whether in marketing or otherwise. And just to say if what you were saying was true, I'm just quoting a global statistic which I read a while ago, that only 8% of global CMOs are actually women. And this is a 2012 statistic. I don't think the situation would have changed dramatically 4 years down the line.
Yeah, and it completely dispels the stereotype that most people have.
In fact, the same study quotes actually that 1 in 5, which is about 20% of global C-suite leaders are women. But the statistic is single-digit 8% when it comes to marketing.
Oh, that's again very interesting.
So HR leads the pack, another stereotype.
Yes.
But so I don't think women have it easier in marketing than men.
Clearly not, as the stats show also. One of the campaigns that you said was your favorite was the Dove Real Beauty campaign. And you said it's your favorite because it started a global conversation about the need for a wider definition of beauty. Now, what I want to understand is, since this campaign was clearly very successful, why did more brands not join the bandwagon and start talking about women in real terms instead of reducing these real terms to annual listicles or anomalies, because we are not having enough of a conversation despite showing clear success in it?
I think there are two parts to it. One is, of course, that there are very few brands which really take the mantle of larger social causes. It needs a brand to be very bold and brave to do what Dove did back then in 2004. If I just look at brands, most of them, I would say about 80% of the brands really operate at what we call a functional promise. About 20 odd % of the remaining, maybe 17, 18 odd % go to really talking about emotional promises and connecting with consumers emotionally.
Okay.
And there are only 2 to 3% who really, stand for a societal cause and try and make a societal change.
Okay.
So most brands love having that conversation, but they don't really walk the talk on it. So that's one part of it.
Yeah.
Having said that, I think what Dove really did, and it was not only about wider definition of beauty,
Yeah.
but they really questioned a stereotype that existed.
Exactly.
And I think in the recent past, at least, I can think of a lot of work that brands have done, which has started questioning some of these stereotypes, and particularly gender stereotypes.
Okay.
I can think of the work that Hero did about 10 years ago with the launch of Hero Pleasure, which was a mobility solution for women, which is predominantly a male-dominated category, where they talked about why should boys have all the fun.
Okay.
Then, in the recent past, and a lot of work that Titan has done.
So, Vandana, where do you see now the next disruption for the marketing field coming in from?
Well, if I just look at the landscape of marketing in the 21st century, I mean, there used to be good old formulas in the past, right? There used to be, there is some messaging that a brand designs and then throws it out to the consumer using all the various mass media channels that we have.
Right.
I think go forward, a lot of marketing is going to be experience driven.
Okay.
From being message driven.
Okay.
I think the other big change, which is already happening and is going to happen more so, is an always on connected consumer.
Yeah.
And therefore, brands will have to start moving away from brand calendars to really being always on, to be able to market to this audience who's always on.
Okay.
I think, and the third one, which again is emerging, you can already see shades of it, is brand authenticity.
Yeah.
And I think more and more consumers are connecting with or demanding brands to be more and more authentic.
Okay.
Be real about what you're talking about, be real in your portrayal, and also be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Which means it's okay to make a mistake, and it's okay as long as you admit that you've made a mistake.
Okay. Now, what is, you've been a leader for so many years and decades in this industry. What is the one mantra you follow to stay ahead?
Well, you asked me for one, I'll give you two.
Okay, fair enough.
To stay ahead, I start ahead.
Okay.
For example, I got onto the digital marketing bandwagon very early on when for a lot of marketers it was just about websites and emails.
Okay.
And while I start ahead, the next thing that I do is I learn, unlearn, and then relearn, because it's a very, very dynamic world that we live in.
Okay,
and that's
true.
really the only way to stay ahead.
Okay. And as a thought leader, do you have, say, 3 essential strategies that other leaders can learn from in order to stay ahead?
Well, I think thought leadership is, in my mind, really about 3 things. Firstly, thought leadership is really about the company that you keep.
Okay.
And so therefore I believe in something called a business satsang.
Business satsang, okay.
So you keep traditionally satsang is all about religion, and you keep good religious company, and therefore you will be pious and you will have pure thinking and values and so on and so forth.
Okay.
Well, in the business context, if you really want to stay ahead and be a thought leader, you really need to spend time with people who are shaping the future. The second one is really about the art of joining disparate dots.
Okay.
A lot of people can see disparate dots, but I think thought leadership is really being, able to join them to form a constellation or a pattern.
Okay.
To see what's coming ahead and then getting prepared for it.
Okay.
And lastly, I think most people follow the ball. And thought leadership is really about predicting where the ball will fall and getting there ahead.
Very inspiring strategies indeed. Vandana, thank you so much for joining us here on She's the Boss. Now you know why she is the boss, and it's really been a pleasure talking to you today.
Thank you very much, Meghna. I thoroughly enjoyed this. Thanks for having me on the show.
Of course. Thank you.